Hello, everyone. My name is Perez-Carreno, and welcome to the Web Talk Show. Today with us is Mike Carlo. How are you, Mike?
Hello, I'm doing well.
Excellent. So the topic for today is going to be disposable tools. Disposable tools in the sense that you can build tools and dispose of them once you're done with them. So that and many other things we might chat with them. But
Yes.
this was a topic that Mike was talking about a few episodes before, and it's a
Yes.
lot of fun. And nowadays, it's even more valid. So, what do you think, Mike, about disposable tools? Are we in the era of just creating something for the heck of it and then throwing it away?
I'm 100% on board on this one. We predicted this one probably about 2 or 3 months ago. I was a bit of time ago, and we kind of unpacked this idea of like, what if I'm going to build things on my machine that are just used for me this one time? And I've coined this term on the podcast that I run called explicit measures, which is this hyper personalization. I really
Yeah.
think everything's going to be hyper personalized. I need a tool that does XYZ, like whatever that thing is. And I've been actually evangelizing this a little bit to other people. I had a coworker, they're a different company, and I said, "Look, have you contemplated using like GitHub Copilot to help you just kind of like vibe code your way into a solution?" They're like, "No, I haven't considered it." And we spent about an hour and a half just kind of together noodling out the idea. And then I come back a week later, and she had already built 4 tools, all vibe coded, and was like, "Look at all this amazing production I've got out of this." And I'm like, "This is the point. The point is you have a problem. The AI is going to be way more knowledgeable about whatever that thing is you're trying to build, and it can easily digest it and make something that's functionally usable. And if the time it takes me to build something like that only takes me 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, right? And you get hundreds of hours of saved time out of it, like, okay, great. And the neat part about this is why I say disposable to some degree is because if it the reason it has to become disposable is because the language models are getting so much better
Hmm.
every couple of months. You're going to want to like revisit it. And I don't know how we do this. This is what I don't understand quite yet, which is, my prompts that I used originally could probably be reused again to build the same app. Armando, we've been doing some experimentation with this. We've already built one app.
Hmm.
You've built a second or third app, and we have since rebuilt our first app using a different tech stack and just basically saying, go. We kind of stubbed out the idea initially, threw away the whole MVP version 1 of the app, rebuilt it on a new architecture, and said, hey, go AI, go document everything you wrote before. List out all the features, be comprehensive. So we built the app, we had the AI look at what it did previously, and that became like the definition of features for the next app. And I think this is a better development pattern. As you become better at prompting, as the models get better, you're going to want to fully rebuild apps because the time to do so is minimal. And now that we have Clawbot, or so OpenClaw, I keep forgetting
Open
the
claw
name.
now. Yeah.
OpenClaw, which is the current name, it's an AI assistant, and you can say, "Hey, I'm going to build this app," and now you're using Opus, Claude Opus 4.5, right? But tomorrow, what happens when Claude drops 5, or ChatGPT 6 shows up, or whatever? Who knows? So you want to have
Hmm.
the agent go back and say, "Okay, go look at this other app and code library, write down all the features that was there. I want to rebuild this whole thing overnight," and you just say, "Rebuild it. Have me a prototype in the morning." And it did it. It's like, this is insane.
That is
I'm so
that's
excited about this.
and the thing is, like, some of the barriers that you would see. We had this conversation yesterday. I was actually on the road when this happened. So Mike is talking to Alfred, the
Our
open claw
our
agent.
our OpenClaw bot.
And so they're talking, they're building, there's something. And then I see something where Alfred asks, okay, so should we keep the super base? We were deciding between, we're moving
Yep.
sort of to the Azure world, right? From
That's
Microsoft.
my
And
world.
so,
Like I'm the
yeah.
data guy. So Armando's like more the front end persona, right? You've got
And
much more experience there and the WordPress and like a whole bunch of web dev stuff. I'm super data. And I get anxious about not being able to like see the tables, and I can't see both sides of the world, which Superbase probably could do it as well. Like just
of
I'm
course.
just not as good at it. And I'm an Azure Stack. So like like Armando was gracious enough to let me switch my backend out a little bit, which is fun.
Yeah, it's fine. And because you're experimenting with these, and it's like I don't mind using
Yes.
Superbase. I was saying this morning. Like
Yep.
Superbase is amazing to get you up and running, and it
Yes.
works, and you have a free tier and whatever. So hobby projects amazing, and you can
Sure.
scale if you want. You could always also do it on Azure, AWS, Google Cloud. But for a lot of people, get just the barrier to entry to just
Yep.
starting using those tools is big. And so,
Yeah.
but if you have someone on your team, like in this case Mike, that already knows that infrastructure part, just getting access to it and having the security piece built in, then great, because then the
Hmm.
tool will help you regardless, right?
Yes.
So
Correct.
we had the first MVP in Superbase, and it did what we needed to. And then we were saying, okay, so now use this other stack. And I asked it, hey, are you gonna stick with Superbase, or are you just moving everything to a database over there in Azure? And Alfred said, well, we have option one. We can first move it up the human way, right? First,
Yep.
move it over and,
Yep.
and keep the database the same way. That way, we sort of know that it works, and then migrate later on. And I was like, yeah, but we might run into some issue, lose some time,
Yeah.
like figuring out some things between Superbase and Azure.
Hmm.
And I mean, just do it again, right?
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
okay, and it just did it.
Yeah. And it
It's
was
so
not. It was
fast.
no faster, and it did it right, and
Yeah.
it's amazing, and I literally, Armando, I am floored by how well this works. So what's so disposable tools is part of this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about just a little bit of just I want to touch on a bit of the security
Hmm.
around these
Hmm.
bots. How do you get them to build projects with you? I think a lot of people are just kind of like thinking that I'm gonna go into CloudBot, I'm gonna go say, or oh dang it, I'm gonna say the right name. I'm gonna go into OpenClaw, I'm gonna go give it my credentials, and it just will post things or grab stuff or make things or talk to my Git repo. I don't think that's the way we should approach these. I think
Hmm.
we should approach OpenClaw or AI assistants as a single identity, and you stand them up almost like a separate user. Treat them like an onboarded employee.
Hmm.
And again, I come from the Azure world. It's very easy. Go to enter ID. You can create a user. There's a username and a password. And that way the bot can manage its own thing. And you can limit its surface area of what it has access to.
Yes.
So Armando and I were like, well, how does Armando and Mike talk to a bot that that Armando and I can both see the Git repo, we can both see the database, we can both see like so the developers, us, the I guess the human side of the equation, needs to be able to see things
Yeah.
independently of what the bot's doing on its own machine, and we don't want to have to log into the bot every time to see anything that's going on. We need the bot to kind of like operate on its own, take its own notes and language or whatever, and then we have to have these tools that we hook into. So to do that, we gave our bot an identity on GitHub. We made a brand new organization. Welcome to our new org. We've called ourselves Forge Meta Studio, so that's what we're doing now. So we have produced our own AI company with AI building solutions for us. So we're just using it selfishly for us right now, but who knows? These may turn into like legit products at some point. But that I just want to touch on that security part. I think that's a
Hmm.
better approach is
Hmm.
to treat your bot like a new employee and
Yeah, like
build
a regular.
identities where they need to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, and keep the security, because that's a mistake, right? That many people do. Oh, log in. Yeah, let me log into my GitHub.
Correct.
No, don't do that, because
No,
then it'll have access to everything.
in
And
your
so,
GitHub and all
in
the
your
permissions
GitHub,
you have. Like that's
yes,
not what you want. You want to
and yeah.
least privileged permissions is like the mantra you want to go by.
And also the computer. Like everyone, oh, I can install it on my computer. No, no, no. If you don't have an extra computer or you don't have a cloud service, then use a virtual machine at the very
Yep.
least, host it
Yep.
there so that it's completely isolated. OpenClaw is an amazing tool for
Yeah.
anyone,
Yep.
but keep it separate from your stuff. Like, don't
Yes.
immediately go and plug it into your computer or to your email. Like, give it another email account. You want to give one of your employees
Yep.
access to your email account, and like, oh, if you have a VA that's helping you with your thing, well, you might have it also in a certain way where you protect your data so they cannot just take over your company, right?
100%.
So same deal, right? I think in that sense, but it is so helpful and so funny too. Like literally, I'm doing something else and I just see the messages coming in, and it's you and Alfred talking about tables and schemas and things, and then I
Yeah,
look over
Armando's
here and
like, I don't
suddenly the
care, just
yeah
ignore it. Like, you keep going.
mute.
And then
And
I
then-
dip out, and Armando's like, that doesn't look right. Let's fix this. Let's add this other dashboard. Let's add these more things. So, like, it's almost we've got two PMs on top of the same project, which is kind of fun too. And
yeah,
it's so fast.
it is super
It's so
fast.
fast.
Super fast. and then you could, and also it's not like we think of, oh, it's working on this thing. No, like Mike
Yep.
was working on something at the same time that he had it
Yep.
working on something legit complex.
Yes.
I told it in another channel, hey,
Yes.
by the way, I would like a dashboard. You think you can build a dashboard? And it started building this whole web app at the same time,
Amazing.
because really it's not, it's just using
Yeah.
Cloud Code behind the scenes, or you can use
Sure.
Cloud Codex or whatever. So it's crazy fast. And fast, I wanted to touch on fast because the reason I think also disposable, so disposable in the sense we're talking about now, like you can do something, do an MVP, throw it away, do another iteration of it, grow that way, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also like many tools that you need right now. Like, oh, you're doing your taxes, you need to put this information from all a bunch of stuff right now. Well, create a tool
Yep.
just locally for
Yep.
yourself that
Yep.
does all that. If you're finished, you're done. You don't need to use it. You can use it next year if you want. But like the other day, I built a tool for a call. I was gonna have a scoping call with a client, and I have my questions. And instead of using a Google Doc or a sheet and then having to do a bunch of steps, I said, well, just talk to Cloud Code, told it exactly what I needed, and it built out a web app that had
Mm-hmm.
all my questions with
Yes.
checkboxes, so I could
Yep.
mark them as checked. And then
Yes.
it had sections with progress of how we're going, and then
Amazing.
went through and it had the pricing and everything. So based on what we discussed, then at the end of the call, the thing could then create
The
a
statement of work.
full statement of work
Yep.
right during the call with everything. And I captured all the information, it gave me a summary, etc. Because then it could pipe the outputs into itself to
Yep.
generate everything. So no creation of anything, no expenses, nothing. I just needed it right there. Then it goes away. It
Yep.
was super helpful. And I think thinking like that will help a lot of people explode the capabilities in their
Yes.
business.
And I think yes. And I'm going to say also, in addition to that, what you described, I think, to me is again this concept of like hyper personalization, right?
Yeah.
I am working, this is the workflow that I've identified that works for me. I need to do it this certain way. Now, if you stand back and like zoom out on like an entire organization, there's probably like very large tasks that are across departments or very common things, right? You look at the IT organization and team, right? There are some very large tasks they're adjusting to. I need to make sure that these servers are running. I need to make sure people have access to this data. I need to take the data from here and I got to move it over there. These are like very large level tasks. But if you go down to like the individual person level, each person understands and works towards those larger goals. This is why you have OKRs and objectives in your company. But down to the person level, how each person does their work might be just slightly different based on what they know, what their
Yes.
knowledge is. And so I may be like a really big fan of Power BI and using analysis services. That's how I analyze data. Another person may not be comfortable with that. They're like, I am an Excel person. I want to analyze that way. So in both situations, we're basically getting to the same answer. It now becomes a little bit of a race to the finish to who can do the thing the best. And, my design might be a bit more complicated, but it might be more robust. Like I can refresh data and bring it back in and be more repeatable. The Excel version might be a bit more ad hoc, but quicker. And you can deliver short-term insights very quickly, but longer term, it's more difficult to maintain and update. So there's trade-offs to everything that everyone's doing. This is where the disposable tools, I think, really shine. Because now you can really step into, I'm going to get this downloaded data. I'm going to build a little mini HTML page local on my machine that's going to do XYZ things, to your point, Armando. Like, I'm going to type in a bunch of things. Here's some information. One thing that I've been really interested in here recently is building skills for AI agents. And I use a lot of VS Code. That's how I do code things. So what I'm doing now is I'm talking with different agents and saying, hey, I want you to accomplish this. And then I work with the agent to build something. And then the output of that is, okay, before I, like, for example, let's talk the statement of work thing, right? How I would maybe materialize this in my head. I'd start with okay, I'm going to do the statement of work. I'm going to have it build a little tiny mini app or whatever that is. I'm going to have it write down a bunch of documents. At the end of that, before I go into like the next conversation, I'm going to say, write yourself a skill, or go back to the agent and say, document what you did. Make this a spec or a standard that we can then reuse over and over again. So I think there's this concept of, and this is what OpenClaw maybe opened up in my mind, is the work that you're doing with the agents is capturable. You can capture the process. And that's the fundamentals of these disposable products, disposable software, right? Build it once, but if you can get rid of the software, if the software just becomes an output, The real value is what are the features of
Mhm.
that? And this is where I think, um, random other side note here. This is gonna come back, I promise. So I've been building a lot of music on Suno AI recently, and it's been super fun. I love it. I'm actually preferring writing my own music as opposed to writing music from or listening to music from Spotify because the lyrics are someone else's ideas, someone else's thoughts, right? When I build with Suno, I build everything for me. It's hyper personalized. So this idea of being able to hyper personalize things and it's the
Mhm.
barrier to create has gone so low for me to get into creation. It's like this is so exciting to me. And this is we're going back to the things that matter now are the prompts, the requirements,
Right.
right? So in technology where everyone says, "Oh, technology will make you easier. It'll be faster. It'll be less effort." That's something that's changing now. What are your thoughts, Armando?
I I completely agree. The skills part of it is, and by the way, the other thing
Yeah,
went away, so we can keep going.
yeah,
See, I really like the fact that you created something, and I did this the other day with what was it? I think we were doing the outreach thing,
mm-hmm.
and the first time I had to explain, like, oh, this is an email I got where it bounced. Please go into column XYZ, mark it bounced, write the date that it bounced, write
Yep,
the message, and
yes,
then make it inactive, right? Once.
yes,
Then any other time something comes in like that, you're like, oh, bounce. It does exactly that. So it
exactly.
learns, right?
Yes, yes,
And that's where the self learning part of these is where it gets really interesting, especially once we get into the open claw
yeah, correct.
environment or deal,
Yes,
right? Because now you can tell it in, like Mike was saying, in the skills, you can say, oh, by the way, anytime you learn something new or we tell you to remember something, this could be in the
yes,
instructions,
yes,
create yourself a skill or
yes,
do something like. And so next
yeah,
time something like this comes up, it's like it knows what
correct.
to do because at the beginning we've seen it, right? It's like I sent it a video. It's like, sorry, I got a video. I really don't know what to do with it. And you're like, oh, can you transcribe it? And it's like, no, I don't have the tools, but let me check. And then
Yeah,
I have the tools now, and it gives us the transcript.
yeah, it's just crazy. It's amazing. The other thing I would say around that particular comment around OpenClaw,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. I love that comment. There is a little bit of a weirdness where it kind of drops its memory sometimes. So sometimes I'm learning to talk to OpenClaw or Alfred Bot a little bit differently now
Mhm.
because I know what it should know. And then sometimes it'll say, I'll give it a task and say, hey, I have a little side project. I want you to do this thing. Today I was saying, go to this YouTube channel and go find this playlist and then give me all the views and the links for every video in the description of the list. Pretty easy. And it said, I
Mhm.
can't do that. You need to go use the YouTube API. And I said, wait a minute, time out. We have a project that did this. Go read up on this project and then come back to me and tell me what you found. And then it gave me the answer. Oh, yes, I see that I have a skill or something around like how to go get information from a playlist. I'm going to use this scripting thing. I'm going to do da da da. And then it came
Mhm.
back and gave me like the readout. Here's my little markdown. So that was something I had to be just a bit aware of is the memory portion of what it's doing. It's not necessarily always checking its memory all the time. And I would argue you probably shouldn't
I don't think
because
so. But
even in humans, like if we're doing lots of projects together, I have to kind of like trigger your memory. Hey, remember that project we did this time? Okay, I want you to reuse something from that, right? So that's again that same way you interact with humans. It seems like that's the same with the bots experience as well. You kind of have to like trigger it a bit, and I can't always assume it knows everything.
and yes, and there's people working on this. I saw some examples. So what happens with humans is we have long-term memory
Yep.
and short-term memory. But then we have these sort of, this is my way of viewing it. We have these sort of meta tags for which
Mm-hmm.
we can go and draw information
Yes.
quickly based on triggers or even
Agree.
smells and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's that's why for large knowledge bases with LLMs, you use vector stores and things
Sure.
like that so that you can very quickly, based on context, grab information and not have the full context window of the thing filled up
Yep.
because it's not very large really. They say it's large, it's not really large.
No.
So what I think there's going to be a point where we're going to be able to give it a good instruction set so that it knows to have this long-term memory and then sort of a
Oh,
short-term memory and
that
then a
seems
way to
right. Yep.
access those. So I
Yeah.
saw someone talking about the memory earlier today, so we're going to try that later with Alfred. But I think they're not touching on the like meta tags or things to wait to sort
Yep.
of access, because this was something, it's very funny that one of my clients said the other day. He was laughing because he's like, I don't know how you do it. He said, we're talking about this completely random other thing,
Yep.
software related in a sense,
Yep.
but
Yep.
like he sees me interacting with other providers.
Yeah.
He's like, how do you keep track of everything? There's so much. Like, this is
Same.
completely abstract.
I've gotten the
And
same comment. Yeah.
right. And so I'm like, and I made a video on this. I'm like, yeah, I mean, software engineers, you or people sort of in this space, there's so many abstractions. I see doctors and I'm like, how can you learn that stuff?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
see the med exam. We work with some doctors and it's like, what? There's no way you can memorize all that. But it's the
Hmm.
same thing with us. It's just a different
Yes.
context. I
Yes.
didn't see it that way, but then I was like, yeah, of course. So I can magically think of very weird things that I worked on in 2008, right? I like,
Hmm.
yeah, of course, this is the way it worked because whatever you remember because you tap into that long term memory.
Yes.
And so I think as we enhance it such that it has the long term memory and can draw from it when necessary,
Hmm.
apart from the skills and all that, then that's gonna be cool.
This is interesting. I I like so one thing is I like what you're saying here. I'm also trying to I'm trying to also think about and interpret what you said about the doctors.
Hmm.
One thing I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard a lot of doctors Google a lot of things. Now, there's fundamentals what they learned in school or whatever that is, but I don't assume that every doctor knows every symptom to all the things. And I think now, especially with the healthcare system, again, thinking of this the same way as I'm looking at code. So code is very complex. There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of languages. There's a lot to know about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no one way for one human to know it all.
Mm-hmm.
The same way, a doctor can't know every single symptom or every single thing from a person anywhere in the world. And the stakes are much higher because if they get it wrong, they get sued, there's people dying. Like this is a big you got to be right. You got to be 100% right. You can't have any hallucinations or weird stuff. Now, however, you could also do an area, and I think there's probably programs like this that exist already. Doctors can go tap in, do a knowledge search, and go find things. And so there's terms that they know that they can relate to, like
Mm-hmm.
Armando and I in programming, like while loops, for loops, context, front end, back end. There's like terms that we understand. There's known objects, but you tell me build an entire back end in Rust, I'm not going to be able to do it. I understand what Rust is. I just haven't written in it. Armando, we pick some other random front end thing that's brand new or comes out. Like you know what the front end should look like, but you're not building on that anymore or don't know it potentially. So this is where I think the analogy I think fits really true with like the AI parts of this thing is you can just have conversations with it and pull out, extract out the information that you need. So in the same way a doctor would leverage a search tool, an
Mm-hmm.
AI, to help them get symptoms down to what possible things are, the doctor still needs to reason across the answers that are there and say, yeah, this is right. I see the same thing. I've seen a couple tweets around people using x rays, same concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Send the x ray to the agent and the AI, and it finds exactly what it is and highlights it on the thing and says, oh, this is the problem. Well, then the human comes in and says, yeah, that's the same thing, but now you don't need to pay an hour's of time for a human to go look at an x-ray. You can just send it through a bot first and have it get a good first pass. And then you need the human to kind of bless it because, again, stakes are high here.
Mm-hmm.
You need some human to be liable or system to be liable for things there. But this is the same pattern I think we're going to start seeing evolving everywhere. And it just seems to be happening in software technology right now. This is going to look really different in 6 months. Maybe not even that. In 3 months, it might actually look really different.
That's right. Right. That's right. Because we see the AI big wave coming mostly in the software side first because
Hmm.
that's where it's more immediately apparent. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, it is touching everything already, but it's gonna touch many more things. I I don't. So I was looking at the flow of what like OpenClaw does, and it doesn't need to have everything in context, but the skills are important to be to have something that's small, right? So you have your knowledge
Hmm.
that it knows, and then you have the context of the conversation, and then it can compact some of that conversation, but it can keep key points somewhere, and then it has its skill. So when it needs to do something it does not quite sure, it could just read the skills, and it's like, oh, okay, perfect. I should use this skill, and then it'll
Yep.
reach a little thing, and now it knows how to do that specific thing. So that's
Yes.
amazing. As you give it more skills, it'll be able to do more things. It doesn't. So right now, what's happening with us is that many of the things that we've shown it what to do, we haven't created a skill for them. And so that's where when it loses context for whatever reason, it's
Hmm.
like, hey, I don't know how to do that. But if that skill is there, as soon as we add the skill for that thing, now it's gonna say, oh, for sure. The same way
Yes.
when you tell it go search this on the web, it doesn't ask you like, how do I search the web? Because it has the skill. It knows how to do that.
Exactly. Yes. I like
It
this.
this
This
is
this is
I don't
where
know
things
that.
are getting pretty crazy. And I think you're onto something here, Armando. With short-term, long-term memory on these kind of things, in addition to the skills pieces, right? That's I think going to be really helpful here as well. And I think there's also right now it feels like a lot of this Clawbot stuff is being managed only with markdown files and like
Mhm.
context windows. I think there's something to be said here for like a knowledge graph that's going to have
Mhm.
to start appearing on these machines where these bots are running, right? We're going to need the ability for it to like graphically have like an ontology or, here's short-term memory things, here's tags that relate to those short-term memories. Here's every project I've worked on and here's summary of the project and tags that go along because that's I think how I store information, right? I don't know
Mhm.
all the details.
Right.
Someone asks me about a particular thing I built, I have to go back. Oh yeah, I remember vaguely the summary of the project. This is kind of what we're doing because some keywords you said sput out to me, spit out, happened, whatever. It triggered some memory, right? And then from there, I'm able to dive into, okay, let me go pull up the project. And then I go look at oh
Mhm.
yeah, now I remember. And it kind of like, then it brings in like your long-term memory. So I think that is, it's very interesting that we're seeing a lot of these models and things now starting to mimic a lot of what we experience as humans because it's very similar in the same way, right? You don't know everything at all times. You have to be able to
That's I
pull
think
from
that's
that
how
and pull back in.
that's how we're gonna do it. I have like we can bring up a knowledge graph relatively easily because we've done
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So either knowledge graph or vector store, but maybe knowledge graph makes more sense. Have it attached to it such that
Correct.
that long term memory
Yep.
is there. So everything we're doing, instead of keeping it, you have the markdown files as it's built, but then
Yep.
have the knowledge graph as its long term memory
Yes.
accessible, so that it can like, oh, I found something, grab it. If not, it's fine. But
Yep.
it has the ability to in milliseconds grab
Yep.
from that
Correct.
and do the
Boom.
whole
Information comes out.
yeah.
And that's where I think it really excites me right now. So one of the projects that we've been working on is, again, I'm a big data platform piece, and so when I work in Microsoft Fabric data platform, I've got a whole bunch of tools at my disposal. I have like an ontology, I have graph databases, I have blob storage for files, I have SQL databases, Cosmos DB. Like I have all these, I have real-time tools with CustoD. I have so many disposable tools at my
Mm-hmm.
fingertips. I just need the agent to know that they all exist and then have it be smart enough to know like which tools it needs to live off of in order to persist things, right? So how does that work? So to me, I look at this going like, wow, this is really neat that all this is happening, but I'm of the opinion of I want to start consolidating all of like the data information to a single platform. And then
Mm-hmm.
inside that platform leveraging bots to kind of help me, rip through my tasks or daily things. And I fully envision that instead of bringing more people onto your team, you're going to take the people you have and highly skill them and say, look, we're going to help you become more productive by really going through your tasks. And I think again, going back to hyper personalization again with disposable tools, I'm bring it
Mm-hmm.
back home here, is yeah, that's really where it's at. The more you can build these disposable interconnected tools, the faster you become, and you start moving. Jensen from NVIDIA, the
Mm-hmm.
CEO of NVIDIA, I saw a short on him, and it impacted me greatly. I've said it multiple times now, but he's kept saying, if I could have all of my engineers never write a line of code again, I would do it in a heartbeat. And he said I would switch that out for problem solving,
Mm-hmm.
problem identification, and stating what needs to be done. And I thought he was very insightful on that. And we don't even understand all the things that need to accomplish in our business. We're
Mm-hmm.
not there yet. We haven't asked all the right questions yet to even get stuff out the door. And I think that's pin for me here is I want to stop doing task-based things. I want to start managing and directing and solving problems with disposable tools, or tools that maybe persist a bit longer, but those disposable tools maybe turn into a full-size product, a full-scale something, right? And then we can address that. And I think the barrier to rewriting your whole tool is almost next to nothing now. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like, yeah, who cares? Start now, build something, and if it doesn't work, switch it out, do another one.
Yeah. Also, for those who don't know, that would take like 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's this is this is what's blowing my mind. Like, hey, I want to rebuild this whole thing, switch out the whole back end architecture. And again, I took a little bit longer because I had to get all the connection stuff set
Right.
up.
Right.
But to your point, it rebuilt the whole app, brand new everything. We swapped Tailwind, figuring out the new front end, switched out the back end, and we just gave it a prompt with 5 minutes of work, and we just let it eat. We walked and came back, and it had it all done, and it was so fast. That's the type of production I think people need to start getting their head around. Like, that's how things are going to change. It's going to be more of that direction now. Super
I
cool.
think I have to touch on something real quick. Like
Yeah.
there's this thing of, oh, because you said it, and people are gonna jump out and be like, no, but I want to manage people. Like I don't want to be a manager. I want to. It's very different to manage agents than to manage people.
Agree.
Okay, so you don't necessarily have to have the manager mindset to manage agents. I like to do things.
Yes.
I like performing. I like actively doing things.
Mhm.
I like the whole software development thing, but not. I realized not because I like writing the code, but because of what I can do with it. So wielding code, I think, is a sort of alchemy
Mhm.
because you can have an idea and create something out of nothing. It's really nice. And that's what I like about software. However, it's not that I love Python or I love JavaScript or I love C++. No, I don't mind what it is. And sometimes I'm like, oh, how did I do this other thing? And no, I like to have the idea and say, okay, computer, do
Yep.
this, which is what you're doing when you're coding.
Yes. Yeah.
When you're
Exactly.
coding, you're
Yes.
saying computer do this, but in a very impractical way for a
Yep.
human. So if I can tell a computer, computer, do this, and it actually does it. You know how we used to in the photography world, we used to always say like people we would laugh at people who don't know about photography and they like you take a picture of them like oh yeah, just Photoshop me. Right? Like they would just tell you that. And you're like, dude, that takes like an hour of
Hours.
work. And
Yes.
now
Yeah.
literally you could just do like remove cables, fix blemishes,
Yeah.
go, and it'll do it in a second.
Exactly.
But
Yes. Yes.
they were far ahead.
Yeah.
So I think it's still gonna be a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun as I think
Oh,
you
absolutely
are
loving it.
telling the thing
Yep.
like do this and it builds it. You're like, cool. Okay, now let's do this other thing. Okay, great. Now let's do this other thing. Or if you are thinking like an engineer, then you might say, okay, this is the whole thing we want to build, but
Yep.
we break it down into little steps. This is all the things. Hey, thing to your point in the business, interview me.
Yeah.
What am I missing? And
Yes.
it can ask you a bunch of things that you didn't think of. And then, okay, perfect. Now you have your document of tasks, etc. And now you can tell it, go forth and build. And it'll do and it'll test and it'll see because now you can have it go in the browser and actually test the whole thing. So it will do a much better job if you prompt it correctly
Mm-hmm.
and give it the right tools than what you would do in
Yes.
most cases.
Yeah.
And people who defend their no, but it's no, like no person can code better than the LLM in my opinion because they know everything, but a person can plan better and
Mhm.
can tell what. So if you tell it exactly what you need in the correct way, it'll do a great job about it. So I don't know. That's what I think.
I love that assumption. Everything you're Armando, we are like the same. Like we're having the same aha moments. This is super fun. I'm really loving unpacking this, and we're gonna keep pushing on this stuff. We're gonna keep building things, and I'd like to continue just kind of investing in understanding like where all this intersects. And again, I'm expanding like my knowledge. Like, I'm looking at the data space of other MVPs in my space in data, and the next logical step for them is to explore development tools to build these disposable type tools. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
next logical step. Like I
Mm-hmm.
already understand the data structure. I understand how to articulate business problems and get that to something else. So I'm switching out the medium of, working with business teams now and saying, okay, well, instead of working with them to get stuff done, I'm taking the requests and then I'm having agents and things develop and build things that we want. And I think we're in a really interesting world right now, and it's going to continue to get really fascinating as we go here. So I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. A lot of fun. I know, Armando, we probably getting to wrap here. We're about at the time of doing these
Yes.
things. So stay tuned. You'll see a lot of these things on shorts as well. We're starting to play with the formats that we're doing as well. But that being said, Armando, thanks for having me on the show today. This was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
No. Yeah. Anytime, Mike. It's always
I'm
fun.
absolutely loving unpacking this. Please let us know down in the comments. Do you like this kind of conversation? Is there more things you'd like for us to talk about specifically to AI, OpenClaw? Like, what is interesting to you? Give us some feedback and we'll do some more shows. Do you want to have this weekly? Do you want this multiple times per week? This is pretty lightweight for Armando and I to get in and talk about what we're experiencing. If you like this kind of conversation, let us know in the comments below and we'll see what we can do to meet some objectives there. Awesome.
That's
Thank you so
right.
much.
Thanks, everyone. See you in the next one.
See
Cheers.
ya.
All right.